The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with hundreds of voices. Representatives from 47 different worlds sat in floating chairs that moved slowly around the massive circular room. At the center stood a young Zilani with pale blue skin and silver eyes. His name was Hyunwoo, and he held a data tablet that trembled slightly in his three-fingered hands. "Honored members," Hyunwoo began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation devices. "I bring evidence of something that may change everything we know about our galaxy." A low rumble of laughter came from the upper levels, where the older council members sat. Chancellor Dae-hyun of the Karathi Republic leaned forward, his rocky face showing mild amusement. The Karathi were known for their practical thinking, and Dae-hyun was the most practical of them all. "Young Ambassador," Dae-hyun said in his deep, grinding voice, "we have heard many claims of galaxy-changing discoveries. Most turn out to be stories told by merchants trying to sell old maps." Hyunwoo's silver eyes flashed with determination. "This is different, Chancellor. I have found records in the oldest databases on 17 different worlds. They all speak of the same thing, a species called humans." The word humans caused a stir in the hall. Some representatives whispered to each other. Others checked their own data devices. A few laughed outright. "Humans are myths," called out Ambassador Kyung-mi from the Vorthan cluster. "Stories parents tell children to make them behave. Be good, or the humans will come and take you away." "No," Hyunwoo said firmly. "They were real. The records show. They came from a blue planet called Terra, or Earth. They had no special powers like telepathy or energy manipulation, but they had something else. Something that made them different from every other species we know." General Minho of the Nexari Empire stood up slowly. The Nexari were the military power of the galaxy, and Minho was their greatest warrior. His forearms were covered in scars from 100 battles. When he spoke, others listened. "I have heard these stories too," Minho said, his voice quiet but carrying far. "In the old war colleges, they teach about humans as examples of impossible tactics. They say humans could survive anywhere, fight anyone, and never give up. Even when they should have died, they found ways to win." "Exactly," Hyunwoo said, grateful for the support. "The records show that humans disappeared about 300 years ago. No one knows why. Some say they all died in a great war. Others think they just left to explore beyond our galaxy. But what if neither story is true?" Chancellor Dae-hyun stood up, his massive form casting a shadow over the central area. "Ambassador Hyunwoo, you are young and eager to make your mark. But the Council deals with real problems. Pirates attacking trade routes, border disputes, resource shortages. We cannot waste time chasing ghost stories." "But what if they are not ghost stories?" Hyunwoo pulled up a holographic display above his tablet. The image showed a star map with several red dots blinking at the edge of known space. "These are energy readings detected by our long-range sensors last month. The energy patterns match theoretical human technology described in the old records." The hall fell silent. Several representatives leaned forward to get a better look at the display. The energy readings were unlike anything currently used by any known species. Ambassador Subin of the Ethereal Collective floated closer to examine the data. Her species were known as the best scientists in the galaxy. "These readings are unusual," she admitted. "The power output is enormous, but the energy signature is completely unknown." "Unknown to us," Hyunwoo corrected, "but not unknown to the ancient databases. I found similar patterns described in human military records from over 400 years ago. General Min Ho's 4 eyes focused intently on the hologram. Something about the energy patterns made his warrior instincts alert. Where exactly were these readings detected? Sector 847 near the Void Nebula, Yunwu replied. The readings appeared for exactly 17 minutes, then vanished completely. The Void Nebula, Chancellor Daehyun rumbled thoughtfully. Nothing lives there. No planets, no resources, no reason for anyone to go there. No reason for any of us to go there, Hyunwoo said. But maybe humans have different reasons for choosing where to go. Ambassador Jun Ho from the Trading Union laughed. Even if humans were real, why would they matter now? If they disappeared 300 years ago, they are probably extinct. The galaxy has moved on without them. Has it? Hyunwoo asked. Think about the stories. Humans who could adapt to any environment, who never gave up no matter how bad things got, who found ways to win battles they should have lost. If such a species really existed, and if they really disappeared, do you think they would just die, quietly? The question hung in the air. Around the hall, representatives looked at each other uncertainly. The idea that humans might still be alive somewhere was both exciting and frightening. General Min Ho spoke again, his voice more serious than before. If humans are real, and if they are still alive, then we need to know about it. A species with their described capabilities could be either our greatest ally or our most dangerous enemy, which is why I propose we investigate, Hyunwoo said quickly. Send a probe to Sector 847. Study the energy readings more carefully. Look for more evidence. Chancellor Daehyun shook his massive head. The Council cannot authorize expensive investigation missions based on ancient myths and unclear sensor data. Then I volunteer, Hyunwoo said. Let me take a small research vessel and investigate personally. If I find nothing, I will accept the shame and never speak of humans again. But if I find proof— If you find proof of what? Daehyun asked. Hyunwoo looked around the great hall at all the different species represented there. Proof that the greatest legends of our galaxy might not be legends at all. The vote was close. 24 representatives voted against the mission. 23 voted in favor. But it was enough. Hyunwoo would get his chance to look for humans. As the council session ended and representatives began to leave, General Min Ho approached the young Zalani ambassador. Be careful out there, Min Ho said quietly. If humans are real, and if they really have the abilities described in the stories, then finding them might change everything, and not all changes are good. Hyunwoo nodded, but his silver eyes still shone with excitement. In 3 days he would leave for Sector 847. He would either prove that humans were just myths, or discover that the greatest warriors in galactic history were still alive, somewhere in the darkness between the stars. He had no idea that in a hidden facility on the edge of the galaxy, human Admiral Ye Jin was watching the council session through intercepted transmissions, and she was smiling. Su Jin rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the communication screens again. She had been working for 12 hours straight aboard the research vessel Harmony, trying to make sense of the strange signals they kept receiving. The signals came. From empty space, lasted only a few seconds, then disappeared completely. Still nothing that makes sense, she muttered to herself. Her supervisor, Captain Wan Shik, had told her to ignore the signals. They were probably just interference from solar flares or equipment malfunctions. But something about them bothered her. The signals were too organized to be random interference. They followed patterns that suggested intelligence. but they used mathematical principles that were completely different from anything taught in galactic schools. Instead of the base 8 mathematics that most species used, these signals seemed to use base 10. Computer, run pattern analysis on signal group 7, she said. The computer's voice replied immediately. Analysis complete. Signal group 7 contains 17 distinct mathematical sequences. All sequences use base 10 numerical system. Warning, base 10 system is not used by any known galactic species. Su-Jin felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories about base 10 mathematics during her studies. It was supposedly used by an ancient species called humans, but most professors taught it as historical curiosity, not practical science. 3 sectors away, Jae-won was having his own strange encounter. The freelance salvage operator was searching through a debris field left over from some ancient battle when his sensors detected something unusual. A ship, badly damaged but still intact, drifting alone in the darkness. Finally, Jae-won said to himself, something worth salvaging. As his small ship approached the derelict vessel, he realized it was unlike anything he had ever seen. The design was completely foreign, with smooth curves instead of the angular shapes favored by most galactic species. The hull was made from an unknown metal that still reflected light despite obvious battle damage. Jae-won carefully docked with the strange ship and put on his environment suit. As he stepped inside, his breath caught in his throat. The interior was designed for bipedal creatures about his own size, but the proportions were all wrong. The doorways were too narrow, the ceilings too low, the control panels positioned for beings with only 2 arms instead of the 3 or 4 that most species had. What kind of aliens built this thing? He wondered aloud. His answer came when he found the ship's computer core. The data was heavily encrypted, but Jae-won had good decryption software. After an hour of work, he managed to access some of the ship's logs. The writing was in a completely unknown language, but his translation program slowly began to make sense of it. When the first translated sentence appeared on his screen, Jae-won nearly dropped his data pad. Personal log, Captain Kim of the Terra Expedition Force. Day 47 of our reconnaissance mission beyond the galactic rim. Terra. He had heard that name before, in old stories about mythical humans. But this ship was real, and it was floating right in front of him. Meanwhile, across 3 different sectors, pirates and raiders were reporting increasingly strange encounters. Ships would appear from nowhere, disable their vessels with weapons that caused no permanent damage, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Captain Bo Young of the pirate ship Crimson Fang was the first to get a clear look at one of these mysterious attackers. Her crew had just finished raiding a merchant convoy when sensors detected an approaching vessel. Unknown ship. This is a restricted area, Bo Young transmitted. Leave immediately, or we will open fire. The response came, in perfect galactic standard language, but with an accent no one recognized. This is Commander Park of the Human Reconnaissance Fleet. You have committed acts of piracy against civilian vessels. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Human? Bo Young laughed. Humans are myths, you fool. And I don't surrender to anyone. The Crimson Fang opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons struck the unknown ship directly, but seemed to have no effect at all. In response, the mysterious vessel fired a single shot that completely disabled the Crimson Fang's engines without damaging anything else. How did they do that? Bo Young's engineer asked in amazement. Before anyone could answer, the unknown ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next moment their sensors showed nothing but empty space. Similar encounters were happening throughout the galaxy. Pirates, smugglers, and raiders were all reporting attacks by ghost ships that appeared without warning, disabled their vessels with impossible precision, then disappeared completely. Back on the research vessel Harmony, Sujin was putting together pieces of a puzzle she didn't fully understand. The strange signals were becoming more frequent, and she was beginning to detect patterns in when and where they appeared. Computer, overlay signal detection points with recent pirate attack locations. The star map that appeared on her screen made her heart race. Every single pirate attack had been preceded by the mysterious signals. Someone was watching, gathering information, coordinating attacks with military precision. "Captain Wanshik to the communication center," she called over the ship's intercom. When the captain arrived, Sujin showed him her discovery. "Sir, I think these signals are related to the pirate attacks. Someone is using them to coordinate military operations." Captain Wanshik studied the data carefully. He was a veteran officer who had served in 3 different wars. What he saw on the screen worried him greatly. This level of coordination suggests a military force far more advanced than anything we know about, he said quietly. Who could be organizing attacks across such a wide area without being detected? The signals use base 10 mathematics, Sujin said. According to historical records, that system was used by humans. Humans are legends, Sujin, myths told to frighten children. But what if they're not? She asked. What if humans are real and they're out there watching us? At Confederate Intelligence Headquarters, analyst Bo Ram was asking herself the same question. She had been tracking the pirate attacks for weeks, and the pattern was becoming clear. The attacks weren't random violence. They were intelligence-gathering operations. Someone is testing our response times, she told her supervisor, Director Il-sung. They attack just long enough to see how fast our patrol ships arrive, what weapons we use, what tactics we employ. Then they disappear before we can learn anything about them. Pirates don't usually conduct intelligence operations, Director Il-sung noted. These aren't pirates doing the attacking, Bo Ram said. These are professionals, military professionals, and they're gathering detailed information about our capabilities. To what end? Bo Ram pulled up a galactic map showing all the recent attacks. If I wanted to plan an invasion of Confederate space, this is exactly the kind of information I would need. Ship types, response times, communication protocols, weapon effectiveness. They're mapping our entire defense network. The implications were frightening. An unknown military force was conducting systematic intelligence operations against the Galactic Confederation. They had technology superior to anything currently in use, and they were clearly preparing for something big. General Min Ho was thinking the same thing as he reviewed the reports in his office on the Nexari homeworld. The old warrior had fought many battles, and he recognized the signs of pre-invasion reconnaissance when he saw them. "Someone is coming," he said to his aide, Colonel Sung Min. "Someone with advanced technology and military discipline. They're studying us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for war." "Who could it be, General? We know of no hostile species with this level of capability." Minho stared out the window at the stars beyond. 300 years ago, there were stories of a species that could appear anywhere, fight anyone, and never be defeated. Stories of humans. You think humans are real? I think we're about to find out, Minho said grimly, and I'm not sure we're ready for what we might discover. Across the galaxy, the signs were becoming impossible to ignore. Strange signals using impossible mathematics, derelict ships from unknown species, ghost attacks by vessels that shouldn't exist. Intelligence operations conducted with military precision. Something was moving in the darkness between the stars. Something that had been watching and waiting for 300 years. And now, for reasons no one yet understood, it was making its presence known. The legends of humanity were about to become very real indeed. Captain Sun Wu had been patrolling the Kepler 442 system for 6 months without seeing anything more interesting than space debris and the occasional merchant ship. The Confederate patrol vessel Vigilance was one of 12 ships assigned to monitor the outer borders of known space, and it was usually the most boring assignment in the fleet. That changed the moment his sensors detected an unknown vessel approaching from the direction of the Void Nebula. "Contact bearing 27 Mark 5, reported Lieutenant Hei Wan from the sensor station. "Single ship, unknown configuration. It's big, Captain. Really big." Sun Wu stood up from his command chair and walked to the main display screen. The ship that appeared there was unlike anything in Confederate databases. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of his own vessel, with a sleek design that suggested both speed and incredible destructive power. "Are they responding to our hails?" Sun Wu asked. "Yes, sir. Incoming transmission." The main screen flickered, and suddenly Sun Wu was looking at a human face. The being appeared female, with short dark hair and intelligent brown eyes. She wore a uniform that Sun Wu didn't recognize, with insignia that seemed to indicate high rank. "This is Admiral Ye Jin of the Terran Colonial Alliance vessel Indomitable," the human said in perfect galactic standard language. "I request permission to address your Galactic Council on a matter of extreme urgency." Sun Wu felt his mouth go dry. A human. A real, living human, speaking to him from her ship's bridge. All the legends, all the myths, all the stories he had heard as a child suddenly became real. "You're human," he managed to say. Admiral Ye Jin smiled slightly. "Yes, Captain, we are humans, and we need to talk to your leaders immediately. Lives depend on it." "Where have you been?" Sun Wu asked. "Your species disappeared 300 years ago. Everyone thought you were extinct." "We didn't disappear, Captain. We left. There's a difference. We went beyond the galactic rim to explore new regions of space. What we found there changed everything." "What did you find?" Ye Jin's expression became serious. "We found enemies. Enemies that are now moving toward your space. Your Confederation is in danger, and you don't even know it." 6 hours later, Sun Wu found himself escorting the Indomitable toward the Confederate capital system. As they traveled through hyperspace, he couldn't stop staring at the human ship on his sensors. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, clearly designed by minds that thought differently from any other species he knew. When they arrived at the capital, the reaction was immediate and intense. Chancellor Dae Hyun called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives rushed to attend, all eager to see if the rumors were true. Were humans really back? The council chamber was packed to capacity when Admiral Ye Jin entered. She walked calmly to the central speaking area, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Every eye in the room was focused on her. "Honored representatives," she began. "My name is Admiral Ye Jin of the Terran Colonial Alliance. I come before you to warn of a threat that will soon arrive in your space. A threat that could destroy every world in this galaxy if we don't work together to stop it." Chancellor Dae Hyun leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral, forgive my directness. but we believed your species was extinct. Where have you been for the past 3 centuries? We have been preparing, Ye Jin replied simply. 300 years. Ago, our long-range exploration vessels detected signals from beyond the galactic rim. Signals that indicated the presence of a hostile species unlike anything we had ever encountered. We made a difficult decision. We withdrew from known space to prepare for war. General Minho stood up, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. What kind of enemy requires 300 years of preparation? Yejin activated a holographic projector built into her uniform. The image that appeared above her head made several council members gasp in horror. It showed a massive bioship, organic and twisted, covered in what looked like teeth and claws. They call themselves the Devourers, Yejin explained. They are a hive-mind species that consumes all biological matter they encounter. Planets, animals, plants, people, everything becomes food for their endless hunger. They have already destroyed 7 entire galaxies beyond the rim. Ambassador Hyun-woo, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. How do you know this? How do you know they're coming here? Because we've been fighting them for 300 years, Yejin said quietly. Every day, every battle, every sacrifice, all to slow their advance and buy time to prepare proper defenses. The war is coming here whether we like it or not. The only question is whether you'll be ready for it. The hologram changed to show star maps with red indicators moving slowly but steadily toward known galactic space. Our latest intelligence shows that Devourer scout forces have already entered the outer edge of your territory. You have perhaps 6 months before the main invasion begins. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions, demands, and protests all at once. Chancellor Dae-hyun had to activate the noise dampeners to restore order. Admiral, Dae-hyun said when the room was quiet again, why should we believe you? Humans vanished without explanation 3 centuries ago. Now you return with claims of alien invasions and demands that we trust you. Because your own sensors have already detected them, Yejin replied calmly. She gestured, and her hologram changed again to show energy readings that looked familiar to several council members. These are Devourer bioships in your outer systems. Your patrol vessels have been reporting them as unknown contacts for the past month. Captain Sunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen those exact energy readings in his patrol reports. Strange contacts that appeared briefly then vanished before his ships could investigate. Even if what you say is true, General Minho said slowly, what can we do? If these Devourers destroyed 7 galaxies, how can we possibly fight them? Because now you have us, Yejin said simply. Humans have spent 3 centuries developing weapons, tactics, and technology specifically designed to fight the Devourers. We know their weaknesses. We know how to hurt them. But we can't fight them alone. We need your numbers, your resources, your worlds to serve as bases of operation. And in return, Chancellor Dae-hyun asked, in return, we save your civilization from complete extinction. Ambassador Su-bin of the Ethereal Collective floated forward. You speak of human technology. What advances have you made in 300 years of isolation? Yejin smiled slightly and touched a control on her uniform. The lights in the council chamber dimmed, and suddenly a dozen human soldiers appeared in the room as if materializing from thin air. They had been there all along, invisible, surrounding the entire council. Adaptive camouflage is just one innovation, Yejin said as the soldiers faded back into invisibility. We have weapons that can disrupt biomatter at the molecular level, ships that can exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously, tactical computers that can predict enemy behavior based on quantum probability analysis. The demonstration had its intended effect. Every representative in the chamber realized that humans had technological capabilities far beyond anything the Confederation possessed. But technology alone won't win this war, Ye-Jin continued. The Devourers adapt quickly. They learn from every encounter. Victory requires something more than advanced weapons. It requires the one thing humans have always been good at, the willingness to never give up no matter what the cost. General Minho nodded slowly. As a warrior, he understood what she meant. You're talking about sacrifice, about fighting even when victory seems impossible. Every human child learns to fight from the moment they can walk, Ye-Jin confirmed. Not because we love war, but because we understand that some things are worth dying for. Your freedom is one of those things. Chancellor Dae-hyun was quiet for a long moment, considering everything he had heard. Finally, he spoke. Admiral, if we agree to this alliance, what exactly are you proposing? Joint military operations, technology sharing, combined training programs, human advisors working with your military commanders to prepare defenses. In short, everything necessary to give us a fighting chance when the Devourers arrive in force. And, if we refuse? Ye-Jin's expression became sad. Then we will fight alone, as we have for 300 years. And when we finally fall, the Devourers will consume your worlds one by one until nothing remains but empty space. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 31 species voted to accept the human alliance. 16 voted against or abstained. It was enough. As the council session ended, Admiral Ye-Jin approached Captain Sun-Woo. Captain, would you be interested in seeing how humans prepare for war? She asked. Sun-Woo nodded eagerly. An hour later, he was aboard the Indomitable, staring in amazement at corridors filled with technology he couldn't even understand. Human crew members moved with purposeful efficiency, their every action focused on the coming conflict. This is incredible, he told Admiral Ye-Jin. Your entire ship is designed for war. Not just this ship, Captain, Ye-Jin replied. Our entire civilization. Outside the ship's windows, space began to shimmer and twist. Dozens of human vessels decloaked around the Indomitable, revealing a fleet that had been hidden in plain sight. Welcome. To the war, Captain Sun-Woo, Admiral Ye-Jin said quietly. The first Devourer attack came without warning. General Minho was leading a combined fleet of 200 Confederate ships through the outer systems when the enemy appeared. One moment space was empty, the next moment it was filled with writhing, organic horrors that defied every law of physics the Confederation understood. Battle stations, Minho commanded from the bridge of his flagship. All ships. Attack Formation 7. Target the largest bioships first. The Confederate fleet opened. Fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma cannons, particle accelerators, and fusion torpedoes lit up space like a deadly fireworks display. The weapons struck the Devourer ships and seemed to have some effect, but not nearly enough. Sir, their hulls are adapting, reported Commander Kyung-soo from the tactical station. Our weapons are becoming less effective with each hit. Minho watched in growing horror as the bioships began to change their outer surfaces, developing resistance to the Confederate weapons, almost in real time. Worse, the Devourers were firing back with weapons that seemed to eat through ship hulls like acid. Fleet status report, Minho demanded. We've lost 60 ships in the first 5 minutes, Kyung-soo reported. Enemy casualties appear minimal. The battle was becoming a massacre. The Devourers moved unlike any ships Minho had ever seen, flowing through space like living creatures rather than mechanical vessels. They seemed to anticipate every Confederate tactic before it was even implemented. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Harmony," the communications officer announced. "Captain Won Shik reports massive bioship approaching his position." On the main screen, Minho watched as a Confederate cruiser was engulfed by something that looked more like a giant mouth than a spacecraft. The ship simply disappeared into the creature's maw, consumed whole. "All ships, retreat to Rally Point 7, Minho ordered through gritted teeth. "Full emergency speed." Of the 200 ships that had entered the battle, only 60 managed to escape. It was the worst military defeat in Confederate history, and it had taken less than an hour. 3 systems away, young pilot Tae-hyung was experiencing his own nightmare. His fighter squadron had been on routine patrol when the Devourers appeared. Now he was the only pilot left alive, his ship damaged and drifting through a debris field that had once been a Confederate space station. "Mayday, Mayday," he transmitted on all frequencies. "This is Lieutenant Tae-hyung. My squadron is gone. The station is gone. These things, they ate everything." His sensors detected movement nearby. 3 bioships were approaching his position, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Tae-hyung prepared to die fighting when something impossible happened. Space around the Devourer ships suddenly filled with weapons fire, but not from any Confederate source. The energy beams were different, more focused, and they seemed to actually hurt the bioships. As Tae-hyung watched in amazement, a human vessel decloaked directly between him and the approaching enemies. "Unknown pilot, this is Commander Park of the Human Rescue Division," came a transmission. "Maintain position while we extract you." The human ship moved unlike anything Tae-hyung had ever seen. It flowed through space almost like the Devourers themselves, but with purpose and precision rather than hunger. Its weapons carved through the bioships with surgical efficiency, exploiting weaknesses that Confederate sensors couldn't even detect. Within minutes, the Devourers were either destroyed or retreating. A rescue shuttle launched from the human ship and docked with Tae-hyung's damaged fighter. "Welcome aboard," said the human pilot who greeted him. Her name was Jinnah, and she moved with the confident grace of someone who had been fighting this war for a very long time. "You're lucky we were in the area." "How did you know where to find me?" Tae-hyung asked. "We've been monitoring Confederate communications," Jinnah replied as they headed toward the human ship's bridge. "We knew this attack was coming. Your generals just didn't listen to our warnings." On the bridge of the human vessel, Tae-hyung met Commander Park, a stern man with scars across his face and eyes that had seen too much death. "Your fleet walked into a classic Devourer trap," Park explained. "They let you think you were winning, while they studied your tactics and adapted their defenses." "How do you fight them?" Tae-hyung asked. "Our weapons barely scratch them." "You don't fight them the same way you fight normal enemies," Park said. "Devourers are biological entities. They adapt, they learn, they evolve. You have to hit them with something they haven't seen before, then change tactics before they can adapt." Park showed Tae-hyung the tactical display. "See these weapon signatures? We rotate through 17 different energy frequencies during each engagement. By the time they adapt to frequency 1, we're already using frequency 18, which is a combination of frequencies 3 and 7 that they haven't encountered yet." "It sounds incredibly complex," Tae-hyung said. "It is," Park confirmed. That's why every human trains for asymmetric warfare from childhood. We've been preparing for this fight for 300 years. At Confederate headquarters, Chancellor Dae-hyun was meeting with Admiral Ye-jin and the surviving military commanders. The scale of the defeat was still sinking in. General Minho sat quietly in one corner, his warrior pride shattered by the reality of how outmatched his forces had been. "Your tactics were exactly what the Devourers expected," Admiral Ye-jin explained without judgment. "You fought them like they were just another species with advanced technology, but they're not. They're a biological weapon that has been perfecting itself for millions of years." "Then how do we fight them?" Dae-hyun asked. "By thinking like humans," Ye-jin replied. "By accepting that everything you know about warfare is wrong when it comes to the Devourers. By learning to adapt faster than they can." She activated a holographic display showing Confederate and human force dispositions. "We propose integrated training programs, human advisors embedded with your military units, joint tactical exercises where your people learn to fight like we do." "And what exactly does fighting like humans mean?" asked General Minho, speaking for the first time since the battle. "It means accepting that you will lose most of your battles," Ye-jin said bluntly. "It means planning for defeat and using those defeats to set up victories. It means sacrificing pieces to win the larger game. It means never fighting fair when you can help it." At the Intelligence Center, Boram was working with human analyst Captain Jung-ho to understand the enemy's strategy. The Devourers weren't just attacking randomly. They were systematically testing Confederate defenses, learning about weapons, tactics, and response times. "They're mapping our entire military structure," Jung-ho explained as they studied attack patterns. "Every battle teaches them something new about how we fight. By the time they launch their main assault, they'll know exactly how to counter everything we have." "So how do we stop them?" Boram asked. "We don't stop them," Jung-ho replied. "We make sure they learn the wrong lessons." He pulled up a series of tactical simulations. "Human doctrine is based on deception. We show the enemy what we want them to see, let them think they understand us, then hit them with something completely different." Meanwhile, on communications vessel Harmony, Soo-jin was working with human technician Min Seo to decode Devourer communications. The bioships used a form of quantum entanglement to communicate instantaneously across vast distances, sharing information about Confederate capabilities in real time. "If we can tap into their communication network," Min Seo explained, "we can feed them false information, make them think our weapons are weaker than they are, or that our defenses are in different locations." "Is that possible?" Soo-jin asked. "Humans have been doing it for 2 centuries, Min Seo said with a slight smile. "We've gotten very good at lying to Devourers." Back on the human ship where Tai-hyung was recovering, Commander Park was giving him his first lesson in human fighter tactics. "Forget everything you learned in Confederate flight school," Park said. "Confederate pilots fly like they're driving vehicles. Human pilots fly like they are weapons." "I don't understand the difference," Tae-hyung admitted. "A vehicle has limitations," Park explained. "Maximum speed, turning radius, structural stress limits. A weapon has only one limitation, whether it hits the target or not." He showed Tae-hyung recordings of human fighters in combat against Devourers. The pilots flew in ways that should have killed them, pulling maneuvers that exceeded their ship's design specifications, using their own vessels as projectiles when necessary. "You're willing to die to win," Tae-hyung realized. "No," Park corrected. "We're willing to die to make sure our friends survive. There's a difference." As reports continued to come in from across the galaxy, the scope of the Devourer threat became clear. They had already established footholds in 17 systems. Confederate forces were falling back on all fronts. Traditional military doctrine was proving completely ineffective. But something else was happening, too. Human ships were appearing throughout Confederate space, not to take control, but to teach. Human advisors were working with local commanders, showing them new ways to fight. Human technicians were modifying Confederate weapons and ships, making them more effective against biological enemies. The war for the galaxy had begun, and it would be won or lost based on how quickly the Confederation. The final battle began with the worst news possible. Long-range sensors detected a massive devourer fleet approaching the Confederate capital system. Intelligence Officer Boram counted over 2,000 bioships, including several planet killers, the size of moons. The enemy was bringing enough force to consume every world in the system. "How long until they arrive?" Chancellor Dae-hyun asked during the emergency council session. 18 hours, Admiral Ye-jin replied calmly. "They're planet killers. Will target the capital world first. Once they begin the consumption process, nothing will be able to stop them." General Min-ho studied the tactical displays with eyes that had learned to see warfare through human perspective. "Our combined fleet has 600 ships. They have over 2,000. Even with human technology, we're outnumbered more than 3-1. "Numbers don't matter," said Captain Sun-woo, who had spent weeks training with human tactical advisors. "Humans taught us that winning isn't about having more ships. It's about using the right ships in the right place at the right time." Around the council chamber, representatives from 47 worlds looked to Admiral Ye-jin for hope. She stood quietly for a moment, then smiled slightly. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "it's time to show you what humans have really been doing for the past 300 years. Ye-jin activated her communicator. "Admiral Insu, execute Operation Lighthouse." Across the capital system, space began to shimmer and twist. Hidden human installations throughout the system suddenly became visible as their cloaking fields deactivated. Massive defense platforms that had been invisible for decades revealed themselves. Weapon batteries built into asteroids powered up. Ship construction facilities that shouldn't exist began launching vessels by the hundreds. "My God," whispered Ambassador Hyun-woo. "How long have you been here?" "We never left," Admiral Ye-jin replied. "When humans withdrew from galactic society. 300 years ago, we didn't go far. We went dark. We built hidden bases throughout Confederate space, watching, protecting, preparing for this exact moment. On the main display, the scope of human preparation became clear. The capital system wasn't just defended by the 600 ships everyone could see. It was defended by a network of hidden installations that had been built over the course of centuries. Admiral In-soo appeared on the communication screen, an older human with silver hair and calm eyes. "Admiral Ye-jin, all defensive positions are active. Phase 1 of Operation Lighthouse is complete." "Understood. Begin Phase 2. Across the galaxy, similar revelations were occurring. Human ships decloaked in every major system, revealing that humanity had been secretly defending Confederate space for 3 centuries. What everyone thought was a recent alliance was actually the unveiling of the largest military operation in galactic history. Communications Officer Soo-jin was working frantically at her station when something remarkable happened. The Devourer, communication network, which humans had been infiltrating for months, suddenly became transparent to Confederate forces. "I can see everything," she reported excitedly to Captain Won-shik. "Human cyber warfare specialists have cracked their quantum communication system. We know exactly what they're planning." The information was immediately transmitted to the command center, where Admiral Yejin and her staff were coordinating the defense. "The Devourers are planning a three-pronged attack," reported Human Intelligence Officer Captain Jung Ho. "Planet killers will target the capital world while their main fleet engages our ships. Meanwhile, a smaller force will try to flank us through the asteroid field." "Classic Devourer tactics," Admiral Yejin noted. "They've used this same strategy to destroy hundreds of worlds. But today, they're going to learn something new. Pilot." Tae-hyung was now flying a modified fighter equipped with human technology. His squadron included both Confederate and human pilots, all trained in the new integrated combat techniques that had been developed over the past months. "Remember," Commander Park transmitted to all fighters, "Devourers adapt to our weapons, but they can't adapt to our thinking. Stay unpredictable. Change tactics every few minutes. Make them guess what you're going to do next." As the Devourer fleet entered the system, they encountered the first surprise. The hidden defense platforms opened fire with weapons the bioships had never seen before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, these weapons fired pure mathematics. Coded algorithms that disrupted the quantum processes holding the bioships together. "Direct hit on the lead planet killer," reported Tactical Officer Kyung-soo. "Their hull is dissolving?" "Mathematical warfare," explained human weapons specialist Dr. Yoon-ji. "We encode destructive equations into energy pulses. The bioships can't adapt to mathematical concepts." But the Devourers were learning, as they always did. Within minutes, their hulls began developing resistance to the mathematical attacks. However, this was exactly what the humans had expected. "Phase 3, Admiral Yejin ordered. "Show them what adaptation really looks like." The human fleet, which had been holding back, suddenly burst into action. But they weren't using the same weapons that had just been fired. They switched to completely different technology: temporal displacement beams that aged bioship hulls by centuries and seconds, dimensional shifting cannons that folded space around enemy vessels, and quantum probability disruptors that made enemy weapons forget how to fire. "How many different weapon systems do you have?" General Minho asked in amazement. 17 primary categories," Admiral In-soo replied, "each with dozens of variations. We've been developing new weapons faster than the Devourers could adapt to them for 300 years. The battle raged across the entire system. Tae-hyung found himself flying maneuvers he never could have imagined, using his fighter as a precision instrument rather than just a vehicle. His squadron worked with mathematical precision, each pilot's actions supporting the others in complex patterns that confused and frustrated the Devourer bioships. "Target the neural clusters," Commander Park instructed. "Every bioship has control nodes. Hit them in the right sequence and you can turn their own adaptation against them." At the communications center, Soo Jin was doing something that should have been impossible. Working with human cyber specialists, she was actually rewriting Devourer tactical programs in real time, feeding false information into their hive mind network. "I'm telling their planet killers that the capital world has already been consumed," she reported. "They're redirecting toward empty space." "How is this possible?" asked Captain Won-shik. "Humans have been inside their network for 2 centuries, replied human technician Min Seo. "We know their code better than they do." The turning point came when Admiral Yejin played her final card. "Admiral In-soo, activate the quantum cascade generators." Throughout the system, devices that had been hidden for centuries suddenly activated. They created ripples in space-time itself, generating waves of pure chaos that disrupted every Devourer bioship simultaneously. "What did you just do?" Chancellor Dae-hyun asked. "We changed the laws of physics in this system. Admiral Ye Jin explained calmly. For the next 6 hours, biological adaptation is impossible here. The Devourers are locked into their current forms, unable to evolve or change. Without their ability to adapt, the Devourers were just large, vulnerable targets. The combined human Confederate fleet tore through them with devastating efficiency. Bioships that had seemed invincible minutes before were now helpless against weapons they could no longer evolve to resist. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat," reported Captain Sunwoo from his position with the pursuit squadrons. "Should we follow them?" "No," Admiral Yejin said. "Let them go. Let them tell the rest of the Devourer Empire what they learned here today." "What did they learn?" asked General Minho. "That there are some prey that refuse to be consumed," Yejin replied. "That adaptation has limits, and that humans are very, very good at finding those limits." In the aftermath of the battle, the true scope of human preparation became clear. For 300 years, while the galaxy thought they were extinct, humans had been building the largest defensive network in galactic history. Every Confederate world had hidden human installations protecting it. Every major trade route had cloaked human patrol ships watching over it. "You've been protecting us all along," Ambassador Hyunwoo realized. "Even when we thought you were gone, you were still here, keeping us safe." "That's what friends do," Admiral Yejin said simply. "We protect each other, even when it means spending 3 centuries preparing for a war no one else believed was coming." Chancellor Dae-hyun stood before the reassembled Galactic Council, looking out at representatives from dozens of worlds that were now safe because of human sacrifice and preparation. "I owe Admiral Yejin and her people an apology," he said formally. "We called you legends and myths. We thought you had abandoned us. Instead, you spent 3 centuries preparing to save us. The Confederation owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." "You can repay it by remembering the lesson," Yejin replied. "Legends exist because they're necessary. Sometimes the greatest act of friendship is becoming the thing others need you to be, even if they don't understand it at the time." Pilot Tai Hyung, now wearing the insignia of the new human Confederate Joint Fighter Corps, stood with his mixed squadron looking out at the stars.